77-year-old man after he directed a number of those slurs at the employee. 3 days later, the elderly man has died. And Fox 13.
Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Imuna, and this is Noteworthy. And we're going to talk about this conversation, react with a purpose. I saw this, came across, and look, y'all, I have put together a book where I can write all noteworthy things in. I'll talk more about that afterwards. But now that I'm a little bit more organized, let's continue to listen to this news report.
Catherine Hawley is live in Tampa with more on the story. Catherine.
Corey Pujols is in jail tonight, charged with aggravated manslaughter. Tampa police say one punch caused that customer to fall and hit his head on the concrete floor, dying from his injuries just days later. Everything started last Tuesday around 1:30 p.m. in the drive-thru of this Dunkin on South 50th Street. Tampa police say a 77-year-old customer was upset over the lack of service he was receiving.
The victim parks the car, goes inside, and has an argument with the employee. Well, at that time, there was a racial slur that was thrown out at the employee. And
Wait, pause. This is in Tampa, Florida. I don't know, it's popping in Tampa right now. Okay, this is at a Dunkin Donuts. 77-year-old man. He parks the car and goes inside, right? And he's beefing with the employee. And in this case, it was this 27-year-old man and a racial slur. Okay? I'm going to come into that later, but let's just listen what happens.
the employee told the victim to say it one more time.
That employee was 27-year-old Corey Pujols. According to arrest paperwork, when the elderly man repeated the same racial slur, Pujols punched him once in the face.
The suspect ended up punching the victim so hard that he fell back, hit his head on the ground. And so when we arrived, he was unconscious and bleeding from the head to where he had to be taken to the hospital.
Court documents say the man was rushed to the intensive care unit at TGH, being treated for head and brain injuries. He never regained consciousness, passing away Friday. A doctor told officers the man had a skull fracture and brain contusions.
This customer was a regular. He apparently came by that Dunkin Donuts a lot.
Pujols told investigators the elderly man was being extremely rude that day. Police writing in the report at no...
Pause. Elderly man being extremely rude.
No time did the decedent place his hands on the defendant or attempt to strike the defendant. Pujols was initially charged with battery that was upgraded to aggravated manslaughter after the 77-year-old died. And Pujols is set to be in court for that new charge this Thursday. Kelly.
All right, Catherine Hawley reporting for us tonight. Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. That was a wild story. First of all, condolences to the family, right? Because we have one person who lost their life and the other person who kind of lost their life, because now they're going to be in the penitentiary system, right? Paying for the choices that they made. In honor of Left Project, I'm going to step back now that I've said what I needed to say concerning that. What are we looking at here? We're living in America. We're living in, they say the past is not the past. As a matter of fact, it's not even past. That's a quote, right? The past is not the past. This, what we are looking at, what that report is so layered that oftentimes we get triggered and not reacting in a way that we can actually say, you know what, here's the underlying problem. So put in the box below, what do you think is the underlying problem? In my estimation, it's the history of this country. Yeah. So you have a person who is a local. They come in. He's 77. We are in 2021. That would mean he had to be born in the early 50s. 50s? Yeah. Thereabouts. Yeah? And he would have been coming from a totally different era where you, and then the chances are he called him a ninja, right? Where you were more free and had the liberty to call people out their names. you were free and had the liberty to devalue people and feel as though melanated people or so-called black people in this country is solely here to serve you. So we don't know what he was arguing about, but they said it was his service. And when this elderly man came in arguing with this worker, he's like, I'm going to hurl an insult at you. Now, historically, that insult carries weight, right? So he hurls the insult. According to what the report is saying, the young man, the 27-year-old, he says, say it again. So, because maybe he's trying to see, well, are you really going to say it again? Are you really going there? Okay? And the man says it again. Now, if you get into verbal altercations and you're carrying on with people, you're not throwing blows, but you are throwing blows with your words. So, and that does fall under domestic violence or verbal abuse. So the man starts berating or verbally abusing the worker. And the worker translates that verbal abuse into physical abuse. No one was right in this situation. Yeah? But this is only coming from the groundwork and the foundation that was laid in this country. And we are in 2021. And if you role played it and put it back in time, it would have been what one person's ancestors, because we all epigenetically, we carry the DNA, we carry the experiences, we carry spiritually, emotionally, and metaphysically the things that our ancestors went through. Why did it trigger that young man in such a way that when he said it again, he did something that in times past would have caused him to lose his life? Ultimately, he is losing his life because now he's in jail for manslaughter. He didn't intend to kill him, but he ended up killing him, right? And it's something for us to sit back and look at it and realize that a lot of the original sin, a lot of the issues that came from the way in which the house was built, right? If we're going to call American society the house, the foundation that was laid is still playing out in today's space and time. So for people who say, why do you still talk about it? It's so long ago. One person lost their life and another is going to jail because of unresolved issues. For somebody to think your go-to when you're mad or you're indifferent towards somebody you may or may not know is to call them out of your name. Where is that mentality coming from? We already know. So once again, the condolences to those who lost their probably grandfather, great-grandfather, as well as to that young man and whatever. People say, why you bring condolences? Because your thoughts are also with whoever the family is. I don't think that, he got dressed and went to Dunkin Donuts that day and was like, yeah, today I'm going to punch somebody out. I mean, if that was the intention, maybe they would have thrown a few more blows. However, what is actually that young man thinking as well? What is he watching? What is he storing up? What anger and indifference so that he could get to that point and be like, yo, I'm going to deal with this person. So deactivating the trigger for me is getting yourself and doing the soul work that other people don't have that power over you. In that moment, he gave that old man the power over him because he didn't deal with what he needed to deal with in his life, right? And because that when somebody has the power to evoke action out of you or emotion out of you, they're in control. So at that moment, he gave that old man the control over him, and it's going to cost him daily. So prayerfully, we can continue to learn and grow from these situations and circumstances because it's ongoing. It's ongoing. With that said, thank everybody for tuning in. My name is Imuna, and join us for another episode of Noteworthy. 1.